mean, but I cannot think of anything. No, I did four.
Oh, okay, good stuff.
So I changed it to.
So who we got? Seth? Seth Michael.
Hello.
Which
Michael,
Michael. Michael's Michael. Seriously. All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Bruce. Beautiful day out there. Being assuming. So, we might have, notes, everyone, Michael on Zoom. Is that, you want to just introduce yourself? I think everyone else here knows everybody. Did you want to introduce yourself, Michael? You're on mute if you would like to introduce yourself.
Bruce Wheeler.
Hey, Bruce.
Hey, Bruce.
We got Peter on the line. Seth.
Oh, Seth Jensen, Deputy Director, Lamar County Planning Commission.
And anyone else on Zoom? I don't think is Lynette coming. No, she's not going.
oh, I remember.
Okay, in the room, Cindy, you want to introduce yourself?
Cindy Hartz from IPEC.
Jim Ryan, Wolcott Wastewater Committee.
Linda Martin.
Horseman, Wastewater Committee.
I'm Peter Lazarchek, Stone Environmental.
Or whatever. We call that. Yes, so we have the agenda up. Can folks on Zoom see that? No, it's just for us. Okay, sorry. I don't have the technical problems for that. All right, we would have to share, right? I'm just wondering, just for the reviewing of last month's meeting minutes, probably.
For those in attendance online, we're looking at the meeting minutes. They're located on the website.
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on the meeting minutes from last month? No discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Alan's missing tonight. I'm sure he couldn't be with us tonight either, folks. Because Tori's not here, I was just seeing if someone wouldn't mind taking notes for the meeting, just I can do this meeting. Take Brandon
Mm-hmm.
to part of the meeting,
Yeah.
run the meeting and take all of their. It's all yours,
We
Brandon.
have no precision.
Okay. All right, so, well, we have some good news, and I'm also learning of some news as I entered the room here this evening. Our indirect discharge permit, the IDP, and it's out for public review. So I guess we have a draft approval with a public comment period. And we're also going to talk about our construction bid process. I had a pre-construction meeting here today in the town office. What that process and timeline looks like. And the results of that meeting today. When we'll go over the school easement and construction sequencing and getting notice out of the porch forum. And also on the agenda that I believe Peter wanted that agenda item or Linda, to how we're going to recruit members for the new wastewater commission on next month's meeting. But all of that said, I'm going to turn things over to Peter to give us the big announcements here. We have Cindy in the room here from DEC that maybe can supplement some of Peter's discussion on the direct discharge permit process, the public review period, and then get into the construction and bidding and scheduling. Okay, Peter, floor is yours.
All right. Well, I don't have the exact date in front of me, but as Jim noted, the indirect discharge draft permit is out for public comment. It comes off of public comment 30 days, which is a couple days before our current June 10th bid date.
June 5th.
It comes off June 5th.
June 10th. June 5th?
Yeah.
Oh, my-
The closest, the 5th.
Well, we're talking about two different things, Peter, sorry. The public comment period is over on June 5th, so it's
okay.
just said. But then June 10th is the end of the bidding.
I didn't have the exact date in front of me,
Okay.
but kind of everything is going per plan where the bid period is overlapping with that comment period. Thanks to all the folks at DEC who kind of helped work with us and really push that through. It really was a big push, but it went great. Thanks also to Lamoille County Planning Commission and some of their conversations to help move things along too. So we had our pre-bid meeting today. Well, I guess, does that cover that one agenda item, public review period?
Yep.
Want me to move on?
I just
Construct-
before you move on, Peter, if there any, we just have to address tell us what happens after it comes off review. Is there a comment? Is there a comment response period or something that we have to, or DC has to respond to the comments, or we do?
Yes. So not so much the committee, but they will have to respond to the comments, and there may be some back and forth where there are changes to the plans based on those comments. If depending on what we get for comments, if any, there's a chance that we would have to push out the bid date, the bid due date, to ensure that changes can be made and those changes could be appropriately distributed to the contractors and give them appropriate time to sort of make any adjustments to their bids. So as far as I know, there aren't any comments to date other than a comment that Stone has been working on, which is essentially to make some adjustments to the disposal field layout to accomplish two different things, which I can get into in a minute. But so we will just kind of wait and see how that plays out.
Sure, you want to jump into the pre-bid meeting and what happens
Sure.
next?
Yeah. So the bids, the bid notice went out almost 2 weeks ago. We got full bid packages out a week ago, Monday, and today was the pre-bid meeting with the contractors where we sort of present the project, go through the requirements of the bid documents, and then do a tour of kind of the critical sites around town, mostly the elementary school, and we did another location near the bridge crossing on Route 15. It was reasonably well attended. Cindy has the sign-in sheet. I didn't get the final count, but I want to say there's 7 or so.
There were 10 contractors and subcontractors present.
Okay. Looking at the list, Cindy, I guess it felt like there was probably about 7 primes there or so, which is pretty good turnout. Some good questions and interest, and we'll be working to make a couple addendums in the next couple of weeks to those documents. Some of them will be just tweaks that will help satisfy DEC's requirements per Cindy's recommendations. Some of them will be, I guess I can jump into one big change that we're working on, sort of based on some feedback that we've been getting from various contractors, which is largely that, folks are very concerned about their schedules over the summer and any sort of interim deadlines in the contracts and needing to jump on the contract or the project right during the summer. And we also had some language in our RFP that was sort of suggesting that we wanted it done this year if possible in 2026. And I think based on some of the rumors we've been kind of hearing, it just doesn't seem realistic. So I think I alluded our last meeting that Stone has been working to make a few tweaks to the disposal zones in conjunction with Oakson, so that there is the opportunity to phase the project if the contractor desires, and also to minimize a little better than was laid out the cuts and fills necessary to install the drip dispersal. So we essentially ended up rotating 3 of the zones, the direction in which the tubing goes to run with contours a little better. And then we also kind of created I think it's a 10-foot wide strip between 3 of the zones and another 3 zones. And what that 10-foot strip will allow is to only build 3 of the zones at a time if that's a desired outcome based on schedules or other factors.
What would that get us, Peter? As far as doing 3, what's a good benefit of that? 3.
The benefit of it is 2 things. And the primary reason why we started looking into it was that it's going to be very challenging to build all of these. So essentially the way these get built is the topsoil, the top 6 inches will get completely stripped from the site and all the grass will get removed. And then there will need to be a leveling of the field, which is not significant. We're talking less than 6 inches across it. But that will involve generally adding some mound sand around the fringes of the various zones to get them completely level. And then they'll pull all the tubing through that area at about 6 inches deep. And then they'll have to put the topsoil back, and then they'll have to seed and mulch it. And so what this gets us is an opportunity to not disturb the entire field, so that at least half of the field is available for the kids to play on when school starts again. There are several other ways that this can get worked around. They could seed it and hopefully have grass growing. And then if the grass isn't fully established and the kids kind of trample it, they could reseed and mulch and get a more robust vegetation next year. They can put wood chips over the tubing for the winter in any of the disposal fields that are in use to ensure that they're frost protected. Or they could do a combination where you kind of have some vegetation growing, but maybe it's not as robust as we would want to overwinter, and then put an additional kind of straw mulch, dense straw mulch over it to help protect things. So this just allows some flexibility if two things. Well, one, that like kind of vegetation conundrum where it's going to be really hard to finish late August and then also have grass growing. But then also this recognition that a lot of these contractors, by the time it gets contracted and they start ordering things, and they may want to really minimize what they do over that school year. And if they were to only build 3 zones, there would still be plenty of capacity to start hooking systems up to the Oakson drip dispersal, percolite drip dispersal system, starting anytime in the spring, really, or even late fall. There would be plenty of capacity, really, to cover the whole town. So the idea is not necessarily build everything that isn't going to be needed right away, and kind of minimize the scope of work that has to get done this year.
Peter, would you mind just pausing there for a minute? I had a couple of questions, and other folks might have a couple of questions of just what you already stated. So, in a conversation with Cindy before we came live, so is my understanding that Oakson is going to be supervising the construction of the dispersal field, but they're going to be supervising the contractor or subcontractor that we hire, or is that, or do they bring their own team in and they act as a subcontractor?
It's actually a little bit of the latter, and the way we decided to structure things is the town is sort of already with a small purchase order paying for the Oakson piece, but part of the services provided is that they will do the bulk of the installation. So they'll be the ones pulling all of the tubing and hooking up all of the manifolds, which will be pre-assembled by them and brought to the site. So there are still components that the general contractor will be responsible for, such as the force mains that feed those manifolds, and then of course any of the tanks and control building and all of the things over in the corner of the field. So it'll be a little bit of a team effort with both of them having defined responsibilities.
So Peter, just to your point about the contractors being busy and not being able to get this all done this calendar year, is there the possibility that that Oakson with their team can do the dispersal field or as you said, a portion of the dispersal field, so this system could be active even if they have to come back in the following summer to finish the dispersal field? Is that what you're saying? So, and then
Yeah.
the main contractor that's hired could start in the fall with the force main lines and the pump houses and everything else. And this thing could be online this fall or spring with the caveat that it won't be, that it has to be added on to next year. Is that what you're saying? Like, we don't have.
Yeah, that's,
I thought that this whole thing had to be built before you flip the switch, but it doesn't, is what you're saying. We can have a partial build and have part of the town hooked up and this thing running even potentially by the end of the year.
you're,
But it won't be complete. I get
Yeah.
that.
that's the strategy we're talking about essentially. Yep. And we're working with the indirect discharge folks to sort of identify that potential phasing with, some guardrails, obviously. And, based on preliminary feedback, they seem amenable to that concept.
Because it seemed like our biggest logjam all along has been getting that dispersal field built while the kids are out of school. But this seems like a little bit of a way around that.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, that's good news. I think, and then the contractor would take the winter pause and then pick things back up in spring, unless they can work on I'm assuming that the pump houses would have to be in place in order for even part of this, a partial system working, right?
Actually, what we found out yesterday is not necessarily. I think in my ideal scenario, yes, at least some of the pump house would be ready to go when it's time to test. But what we learned yesterday is that there are actually some workarounds that Oakson could do where we could use the pumps and the skid pumps that get brought for the treatment shed and hook that all up, test it with a generator, and bring tanks worth of water and sort of temporary tanks to do the testing we need to do. So I think that really just gives the contractor some flexibility if they don't have the manpower to get those tanks in the ground and pour the slab. If they are having a hard time getting the pre-made shed delivery times working, like a bunch of these things that are a little bit of an unknown at this point, it gives them some flexibility. I think the most efficient way, Jim, to sort of answer your question would be to, at a minimum, get the force mains installed up and through the slab, and then ideally have the tanks in the ground also. But I don't think it would be that horrible to do this other workaround where you have some temporary tanks for water and sort of prime those pumps to work.
When you're talking about the tanks in the slab and the force mains there, are you talking about at the pump houses locations? Where is that location that you're talking about?
Yeah, at the pump house. Yep.
At the bottom of School Street?
Well, at the top of School Street, yep. Oh, no, yeah, at the top. So this is all stuff that would happen at the final dosing station up at the school. Yep.
Okay.
And all the rest of it could all happen on whatever time frame they're on. Obviously, that installation of the force main through town is going to take a long time. So they can kind of decide how they want to phase that part.
And the Oakson, would they be building the pump station piece, or would that be the contract, the other contractor, main contractor?
The other contractor will put the tanks in the ground. Oakson will help connect all the pumps and the controls and all that sort of stuff.
Okay. And is the new principal, Kate Gascoigne, is she? This was just happened today, so maybe she hasn't been brought in the loop yet. On the sequencing, on this phasing.
This is sort of in line with some of the strategies I was alluding to her when we had our one chat with her. So my understanding is she'll be pretty happy with this phasing option. But she's also pretty amenable to other scenarios as well. So I think in the next couple of days, it'll be our job to kind of try to outline this in a way that makes sense to the contractors, and kind of lays out their options without telling them exactly, but also gives them some flexibility where some of the contractors that are too busy don't get scared off. So the strategy is we don't want to lose contractors that could potentially do a good job and be the lowest bidder just because they're too busy right now. So we're trying to make it as easy on them as possible.
Everything you just discussed would be in the addendum?
Yeah.
So the contractors would know exactly this new update about the phasing option.
Yep.
And is it your gut from the conversations today from the contractors when you might have been tossing this around with them that this could work for some of the contractors that are even more booked up for the season?
We didn't get a ton of very direct feedback. I don't know if Cindy had any side conversations or not, but in general, the sort of the language in the room was suggesting that this was a welcomed change.
Yeah, I had talked to a couple before today who told me that, well, if you end up coming up with a new final completion date, we would be willing to bid. But right now, with the date of fall 26, we're too busy, we can't bid. So this is good news for them.
So just so this addendum that we're potentially talking about the phasing, Peter and Cindy's, would there be a deadline of getting that partial build at the school?
Yeah.
In the addendum, like at least getting that done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't, the new principal seemed less concerned about having construction happening while school was in session, but we definitely are cognizant of the fact that it would be more disruptive anyway to be working on the fields as you get closer to the school. And so the goal is to have that part of it done before they're back.
Okay. Linda or Bradley or Bruce or Seth, anybody else have questions for Peter? This I think is an important conversation update here. I know that you have more to go over, Peter, but it's questions on what Peter has discussed so far? Okay, yeah, do you want to continue, Peter? Sorry.
Sure. I think that covers everything. I mean, we might, depending on how things shake out in the next couple of weeks, we may need to do an addendum where we have to extend the bid deadline. So that's in the realm of possibilities. We'll keep the committee apprised to any of those changes.
How long would you extend it if you thought that was needed?
I guess it depends on the circumstances. If we're addressing comments that need some back and forth with the indirect discharge folks, then it could be longer. I mean, I would be hopeful that it wouldn't be more than a week or so, but it kind of depends how things play out.
And the contract, so there would be just one, in addition to Oakson, there would just be one contractor hired to assist Oakson with the dispersal field and to do the rest of the project.
Yeah, that's right.
There might be subcontractors, but one.
Yeah, there will be subcontractors. I mean, they're going to need to purchase all of the Aranco equipment. Jared Willie, who he's kind of dual purpose on this project. He's a manufacturer's rep for Aranco, and then he's also part of the Oakson team in Vermont. So he was present at the bid walk. And so he'll sort of be assisting the contractor in the logistics of installing the Aranco equipment on the precast tanks that the contractor will have to get. The contractor will need to get a subcontractor to build the bridges. They'll need electricians. They'll need to get the shed, all the pieces of the puzzle they'll need to coordinate.
Okay.
Ledge removal, probably.
Okay, so the question, Peter, we have all the permitting is done, except for this public comment period on the discharge permit.
The other one that's in public notice period right now is, and it's a shorter period, is the Act 250 amendment. So we have a draft permit for that one also. And then the only other one we're still sort of working on is the, I think it's called the excavation in the right-of-way permit, which is a town of Wolcott permit that we've kind of been talking to the town for a while on, but just kind of, I don't think it's not a huge deal, is my understanding from talking to Alex, and we're just kind of working on those details and making sure that that's in place for the contractor.
Okay. Anything else, Peter?
Not on that one. Happy to jump to the school easement if you want.
Yeah, so just that, so we're meeting, our next meeting is on the 16th, so we would, depending on if you extend that bidding deadline, and the bidding is the 10th, so that would go right into that week.
Yeah,
right?
so our thought, if nothing changes, is that the bids will be due on the 10th. Stone will need a couple of days to do our bid tabs, which is kind of summarizing how all the contractors shook out. And so hopefully by the end of the week, the 12th, we'd have that for review. And we're hoping that, it's, an apparent low bidder who's also well qualified for the project. And then we were thinking if we needed a official select board approval, that we would come to the 17th of June meeting on that Wednesday, make a recommendation to the select board, and then hopefully get their concurrence. And then in the following couple of weeks after that, work on the official contracting. Ideally, we would let the contractor know as soon as possible after the bids if there's an apparent low bidder that we want to work with. We would want to let them know as soon as possible that it appeared that they were getting the work, so they can start kind of planning.
So you, a couple minutes ago, you mentioned that you might have to extend the bid a week. How would that would throw things, you wouldn't.
We would
Meeting.
probably need to schedule some special meetings with the select board and or the committee. Based on how the timing shakes out.
Why does it take 3 weeks to do the contract? I mean, isn't it like
I think-
contract, and you just put their name in? And
I don't think
then-
it's going to take that long. I mean, the good thing is we're not dealing with state contracting. We're dealing with, the town making sure, but we have to just check a bunch of boxes through Cindy's program, make sure that we've kind of done our due diligence and on the contractor selection and all of that. So I think, and Cindy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it could probably get expedited, but we're just trying to be realistic on it.
Yeah, it can.
So there's a possibility that
It will.
deadline won't change as well, Peter. It's, you haven't just made a decision on that.
We have not.
I know you have to do the addendum, but yeah.
Correct, yeah.
So can you just tell us about how this decision-making process is, you're gonna summarize the bids in this document that you mentioned. I would imagine Stone is gonna have your recommendations. You're gonna recommend that to the wastewater committee, and then we're gonna collectively make a recommendation to the select board, or how does that? Can you walk us through the decision tree here?
No,
No.
I don't know that we're going to have, I mean, I think our recommendation is going to either be cut and dry or not. And it's not going to be like a lot of leadway. It's hopefully the apparent low bidder is a well-qualified contractor that we want to work with. And we just kind of have to wait and see. I don't know that it has to be any sort of official committee agrees and then select board does. I mean, ultimately, it's probably going to be relatively apparent. We can check references and make sure the performance bonds. Well, actually, Cindy, you said the performance bonds can happen after it's awarded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
certificate of good standing.
It's only used for like smaller contracts, like 250 and less. 150,000 and less.
We just got dinged for our single audit for not having.
For not having the.
Yeah, and our contract was over $1 million with them.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just curious.
yeah, we usually only use them on the smaller contracts. For one this size, you want a performance bond and a payment.
That takes the place of it.
Yeah. they do.
Okay, I understand.
And a certificate of insurance.
Yeah. So with our procurement policy, it's pretty well spelled out. That it's just basically, the lowest bidder, if they have the right recommendations. It's not a debate.
But so where does say expedited implementation factor in? I know there's
Hello?
there's the low bid, Peter, but if one contractor says we can get this done by July 1st of 27, and another contractor says, we're gonna wait till the end of December. Well, I think the end of December, that's the end of our grant, right? So
No, I double checked all your funding
Okay.
sources, and they all have deadlines in next year.
For September. I know that.
I'm just wondering,
That's the state one.
so there are final reports and stuff that have to be done. Like, I'm just trying to wonder, when's a realistic drop dead date for final construction completion?
Fall of 27.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's an easy way to do what you're trying to get at, Jim. Maybe Cindy has some ideas, but
But that fall date that Cindy was just talking about, that's very clear in the bid documents, like,
That's the fall date. It occurs in two places. It's between you and the funders.
okay.
And then we can put a milestone in the construction contract that says your final completion will be achieved by September 30th of 2027. And I don't think that's the one that's a stumbling block for them. If it was, right now, it's September 30th of 2026, and I got a phone call.
September 30th of this year?
Yeah,
That's in the bid doc?
yeah, that's in the bid documents, and that's causing a lot of indigestion
Oh,
because
I wasn't, I was assuming it was gonna be the end of the calendar year. Or,
how was that in there, Cindy, though? Like, that wasn't written as must do that, right? That was
no. I mean, it's what they saw as, that's why they were up in arms.
yeah.
why is that in there though?
To
We
tell
were-
them,
Yeah, we were trying to make it clear that in an ideal scenario, it did just get built this year.
But why September and not the end of the year?
I didn't think it was September, but I would have to look.
I'd have to double check myself. I've got so many projects that
I thought it was like November of this year with like a kind of a preference.
the end of the construction season for 26.
But this September deadline of next year is going to be clear and for the bidding.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be. And I think that will be welcome news to them.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Questions for Peter? Cindy? This might be a good segue into, it's also under the same bullet, but there's the landowner notification piece. Now that we have this new information about this potential phasing, we won't know until, I guess, the bids come in and we select a contractor until. But we are going, so we're definitely gonna go down this path of phasing the dispersal field, getting that done this summer while the kids are out of school. And construction starting on the rest of it in the fall, and then they would have essentially have another year of construction to finish. But what's the best? We don't really have any landowner notifications unless we know what they're going to be doing in the fall after the dispersal field. So we won't know that until later, right? And what,
Yeah,
do you have a
I
preference
think-
on?
I don't
Yeah,
think you
correct.
need to. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, do you have a preference on where they work this fall after the dispersal field? As far as which kind of start at school and work their way down the hill, or and then do 15 next year, or do School Street first, I guess is my question. Bridge.
That would probably make the most sense to me, but I don't have a huge preference. I think it probably makes sense to be working from the school backwards, because then if you needed to, there's probably ways you could be starting to hook folks up without the whole force main. But in terms of sequencing, I think the likely scenario is, first to focus on the school and the treatment shed and the tanks. Secondly, start working away at the force main and probably not really start any connections until the entire force main's in and has a place to pump to. If is kind of the way I've been envisioning it, but there's definitely a lot of different ways the contractor could choose to skin it. I would imagine that working in the backyards is going to be one of the last things they do.
So this, even if we, let's just say that they build this system from the school dispersal field, the pump house up there, down through the town forest, then make the second pump house on the bottom of School Street, right? And then School Street, Force Main, the bridges, at least the bridge over here on School Street. So those properties would not be hooked up, say if they got all that done by the end of the year. You're gonna wait till the whole Force Main is built.
I think that's the most likely scenario. But once again, if they, maybe they have maybe one of the larger GCs decides to have a subcontractor who's more of a residential on-site septic type company who's used to putting in septic tanks and stuff. Maybe they have a subcontractor who's doing that, and maybe that contractor is ready to go this fall and starts picking away at the backyards on School Street. And we'd have to strategize the timing of the force main and whether or not we, maybe capped off part of it so that some of the users could use it while they're waiting for the rest of the force main to go in. I think there's different ways that it could get done.
Okay.
The least complicated would be to just like hammer out the whole entire force main and then start making connections. But it kind of depends on how many crews they have working and how they want to tackle it.
So we won't be flipping the switch, so to speak, until not this fall, a year from now. If that's the case.
I think the likely scenario is we're not flipping the switch till at least next spring, but it's not to say it couldn't happen. It would be a more coordinated push late summer into fall.
And how does all this relate to the bridge construction completion and the pipe under the bridge? Is that going to happen during the construction? Is the crew that's working on the bridge now going to do that, or is
that's the VTrans contractor has in their contract to install that pipe on the bridge and out to the extents of the project and leave it for our contractor to hook up to.
Okay.
Yep. They'll need to do some things like get electrical for the heat tracer that goes across the bridge. And they'll, have to make the connections and, likely do some testing and whatnot, but.
So I'm just thinking about the landowner notifications and updating everybody else in town about the project. That it sounds like we should probably wait until we select a contractor, have a better sense of the phasing and sequencing of the project, to give residents that will be hooked up and everybody else in town an idea of what the next phases are and how that might, especially as how it might impact the village properties. We won't know that until late June, probably.
Yeah, I guess that's my feeling is I'd probably just hold out and wait till we have a little more clarity on when things are going to be happening. I mean, we already know that any activity that's going to happen in July is going to be up at the school. July and August probably is going to be completely isolated to the school, no matter which contractor gets it.
Okay.
The best case scenario is they do have capacity and they're doing more than we want up at the school. They're getting all the tanks in, all the controls, shed, maybe all zones, maybe at least all the force mains anyway. So I think that's plenty of work to fill up July and August. So I don't think any of the property owners really have to be on alert for quite some time.
And then the remaining part of the dispersal field would be next summer, not this summer, next summer, right?
Yeah.
27.
Yeah. I will say, in terms of like Oakson's ideal world, they would rather just boom, do it all at once. But I think they've kind of realized that, making this as easy and, for the summer season, making this easy on the contractor that's selected is kind of the best thing overall for the project.
And the principal is okay with disrupting the field 2 years in a row?
She's pretty amenable, and yes, that's pretty much what we talked about. And that was actually started off as a strategy to accommodate them not having sort of marginal fields. We were told that the soccer program is up there, and that concerned me quite a bit, that the fields wouldn't really be ready for soccer matches with kids. We've since learned from the woman who coordinates that they have other options and they're not too worried about it. So that's a little less of a factor than I thought it was, a couple weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. But yes, I think the other thought on that was that my vision would be that next year's installation would happen. We already know the contractors are, we know all the players are. That could happen right when school gets out. It could be finished, by the end of July or maybe even middle of July. And then you could have, a good 4 or 5, 6 weeks where that grass can really get established for that second round of fields up there. And then I was going to say, and also the first 3 by then should be well established with grass. One of the strategies we talked about with the school is maybe fencing off the ones that are constructed this year to just make sure that the grass really can have time to grow and get established.
I don't know if this is, obviously it would be a higher cost, but was there a discussion of maybe to do the dispersal field all at once this summer and then just bring in sod? Okay.
Yes, we have not had that conversation with the contractor, but Alex and I have been looking into that quite a bit. And that is definitely an option. What we were finding was it was a little bit of a cost concern, and it was also a little bit of a supply concern, just like trying to figure out where and who could supply that much sod and where it has to come from. Turns out there's a place in Johnson if anyone needs any sod.
Tony LaHoyer,
Yeah.
Flipper Farm, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a friend.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was happy to learn of that for my own house if I ever need it, but that scale was completely off the table with him. He couldn't handle that level of coverage. But yes, that is an option. I don't know. Yeah, I guess we'll have to strategize maybe a little bit with Cindy if that's a helpful thing to throw out there as an option for the contractors. I mean, I think based on what we're hearing, that just kind of adds an extra layer of stuff that would have to get done in a short amount of time.
Yeah, and another thing that pops to mind is a lot of funders do not like to see gold-plated approaches. So,
Right.
But you've got enough different funders, so there's probably a way to mix and match.
Yeah, well, I mean, to argue that point with the funders, I would like to say that it's not that we want top-notch, grass at the school, but it's more to get this done this season, not disrupting the school.
I mean, I think the feeling that I guess where I landed on this, trying to really think about all options, was that that scenario was going to cost significantly more than the sort of inconvenience or maybe slightly higher cost that might occur from phasing it.
Right.
Meaning-
Yeah. Compare
meaning-
those two costs.
Yeah. I mean, the testing will happen. In this scenario, we'll have to do 2 rounds of testing. Oakson will have to bulb up again a second time next year. There's going to be some managing and kind of moving around of some of the equipment to make sure it's stored properly over the winter. There's the most efficient way to do this is just boom, get in there, get it done this summer. So, but it's possible the way these contractors would price things is they, because of that short time frame, then you're paying a premium in a different way, right? Their price goes up because their resources and their staffing they're pulling off from other projects and juggling things to make it work, so they have to make more money on other things. So ultimately, I think the strategy we're talking about is probably the most likely to get us the best pricing for the sort of least amount of inconvenience to folks.
Yeah, you could also put it in the bid as a bid alt, just to see what the price is.
The sod.
Yeah.
A bit old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I've been thinking too, Cindy. I'm glad you said that. I think that would be a decent way to just know what their, per square foot price is to do it. Maybe per zone or something.
It's just would be part of the addendum, Peter.
Yeah. So I'm going to just make a quick note of that.
Good to keep all of our options open and see what the contractor might want to
Yeah,
do.
I mean, that's certainly the way I've been trying to think about it. And I will say Alex and I and Oakson have been putting a lot of mental strategy energy into like thinking about how this can happen. Cindy too. Cindy's been very helpful in giving us thoughts on how we could make sure we can attract as many bidders as possible.
While you're writing it down, Peter, I'm just thinking, so regarding the next couple of bullet points about updating landowners, the public, it sounds like there's still too many uncertainties to put definitive information out there. And I'm inclined to wait till at least we know who the contractor is and what, at least a rough schedule, sequencing, phasing, timeline will be, and then get that out to folks. And I guess we're gonna, depending on what's gonna happen in the fall, we can think about that over the summer, direct mailings to that subset of the village that where the work is gonna happen this fall. But one thought that also came is the town forest piece that would likely be in the fall now, right? The right of way through the town forest. So, and
Yeah, I would think
that
would all too.
would that impact any trails or any, we need to reach out to the town forest committee. I know Linda's here representing the select board, but
Yeah, I was thinking about that when we were up there today, and I admittedly haven't really been on the new trails, so I haven't been out there since it was, just a logging road. And so if I'd had more time today, I would have liked to have gone down and just kind of checked out what it looks like now. But yes, I think it would probably be good to reach out to them sooner than later and just let them know that this is getting closer and that the trails will definitely have a period where they're disrupted and some of them will have to be closed. I would imagine that main artery, I haven't looked at the network, but I'm imagining the main artery and that parking lot might not need to get closed down for a while, but that there still could be access, from other places, either up from the school or other entrances that would keep most of them open.
Linda, you can share that with Peter.
Just that I know that the school doesn't want people going up there and parking when school's going.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah.
So the parking lot you're talking about, Peter, is on School Street,
No,
on
and East Elmore.
East Elmore Road.
East Elmore, yeah.
That parking lot on the eastern side.
Yeah, that's where there's a large pump station that goes there. So there'll be the installation of that. There'll be some electrical conduits and electrical work that'll have to come from the power poles. And so I think for the most part, the contractor can probably leave that open. And then there'll probably be somewhere between 2 to 3 days to a week, I would think, to kind of run that line down through there. And we'll have to determine based on the contractors, like how they're going to do it. I'm assuming they just need to close the trail for that period, but maybe there's a way we can kind of get people around the section they're working in. I don't know. They'll essentially have a big excavator going right down the middle of that trail.
Okay. So it sounds like the parking lot would be the bigger impact, and the pump station when that happens down.
Yeah, the day the pump station gets delivered is probably going to be a day that they'll have to close it, because you're going to essentially have a really big hole and a really big truck coming and unloading that.
So they're prefab, Peter, the pump stations?
Yeah.
They're already built. So
Precast, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is good. So we should, I don't know the best timing, maybe again after we hire the contractor, but talking to the town forest committee and talking to the new principal about any updates on the scheduling as soon as we get some more definitive information. So that brings me to the second to last bullet. Being that this project is not going to be online until a year from now at the earliest. Do we still have this sense of urgency of recruiting members for the new wastewater commission? That's a year.
I think we could table it. I just wanted everyone to still be thinking about how that transition is going to happen, because there's going to be there are different ways this could play out, that some users could be online sooner than later, like the example we were talking about where maybe they're connecting folks up School Street even though the entire force main isn't built. I think there are ways that things like that could happen. So I don't think we really need to talk about that, but I guess I am curious, just knowing how hard it is in my community and other communities to find volunteers who want to do this sort of thing. Just wanted folks to be thinking about that pass off.
Well, Linda had a question about Peter. Would you be able to come up with some duties, or how?
We already have the bylaws.
It's going
We passed them.
to be very different than this committee.
They have to sign the bylaws. I did all that research when we put it out. I need to clean it up and they're the ones that, sign off on the bylaws and it tells all their duties. And my question is, so you got one or two people signed up and, it's a long time before you get to Route 15. So you're gonna have to start right then and there and with the testing and all that requirements that are required of us? In the indirect permit? That was like a mess to me.
I don't understand what
Well, in the direct permit, you can read and it tells you when it's testing and what has to be done and, certain things that have to be done.
It's a condition.
Yeah, I think some of that, I mean, you'll have to have, as soon as wastewater starts going up there, you're gonna need to have an operator. And I guess that's part of the reason why I was starting to wonder about this wastewater commission, because those are gonna be the people that, solicit for the operator, and select who they want to work with. I mean, I guess this committee could do that, but that's probably the biggest thing that should happen. It's not a crisis yet, but we need to be thinking about it. That's the probably the most useful thing would be to make sure that the operator is already selected and kind of ready to go when things are up and running, and that they've already had a chance to work with the contractor to a certain extent and Oakson and understand how the system works. Because I've seen that before where, you're kind of scrambling, the system's kind of coming online and they're not available for some of the startup procedures. And it's helpful if you know who that person's going to be so they can start getting looped in as well.
So
Probably be good not to hook up a lot of people till at least wait till the whole street's done or something.
That's how I've been envisioning it. I mean,
Yeah.
I see first you need a place for to get disposed of. So you need the schoolwork, or at least a good chunk of the schoolwork done. Then you need the force main to transfer all the wastewater up there. And then you can start picking away at the connections. But like I said, if they have the right combination of crews, what you don't want is to have existing septics to get damaged or ruined or not usable by way of installation of the other stuff, and not have some place to send that wastewater. In an ideal scenario, you're pumping that existing septic tank, you're getting in there, you're digging your hole for the new step tank, you're coordinating with the electricians and the controls people are going to be just boom, boom, boom. And hopefully as soon as they get done with one house, the electrician's coming in, hooking everything up. And then ideally they have a place to just, flick the switch and that system's pumped and the force main's already set up and everything's good to go. Like I said, there's quite a different ways we could skin it, and it ultimately depends on the contractor. But I think that would be the smoothest.
So Peter, do you envision, or maybe Linda, question, do we have to put this out to bid for an operator? And
Yes, you have to follow the town procurement policy.
But who, I guess the question is who makes that decision? Is it this committee, the new wastewater commission, or the select board? Who's going to make that decision of who the operator is? Because we have to hire, what you just said is we have to hire the operator before the system goes online, which means probably spring, the latest of next year, to have that operator in place while all the testing goes on.
Yeah. I don't know the answer for sure. I think it probably could be any of those entities could do it.
Only I have to read the bylaws and whether I have to read the bylaws again to see if the wastewater commission has what powers they have over that.
Right.
What the one we did with JV.
Yeah, we should take a look at that. And
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know, they might just be making a recommendation to the select board. If it could be written that way too.
Yeah,
There aren't that many wastewater operators, unfortunately, to choose from. So that's another, I guess, another good reason to get that rolling a little sooner. I mean, I don't think we don't want it to happen before we have a contractor in place, but
Sometime
you
over the
know,
winter.
there are other systems across the state that are in this same program. And currently we're the second one to go out to bid. So I think regionally will influence who wants to work on each of those to a certain extent. And they are spread out quite a bit all over the state. But you know, certainly trying to get an operator before they're all tied up with other new systems would be good. I know the ones I worked with are already pretty maxed out.
There's a hand up on. I can't see it behind.
Just question
Is
about
that you, Seth, with the question? Okay,
Yeah.
we saw a hand. Sorry, it was
No.
behind the agenda.
no problem. And when the indirect discharge permit conditions are triggered, and I think the question was more about some of the testing and monitoring versus the operator, but is that looking just at School Street, it doesn't look like School Street, the homes on their own would trigger the threshold of the indirect discharge permit. Does that matter for when those requirements go in, or are they, because it's going to be an indirect discharge permit, they're there?
Yeah, I don't think it matters. I don't think
Okay.
it's like you get to do what you want till you hit 6,500 gallons. I think the conditions kind of start right away. And in a perfect world scenario, and probably the way the permit is currently written, it would just like kind of all magically get switched on the same day. The reality of this is that, you know, this hasn't really been done in over 20 years since Warren did it, and that might be the only great example. And that one was definitely phased for various reasons. I'd have to talk to Amy, might have some recollection of exactly how they did it. But moral of the story is, I think there's the reality is there's a little bit of leadway and wiggle room. You know, ultimately I need to sign off on the system, and obviously we want to keep them in the loop on what's going on.
Peter, can you remind us which other towns in the state are roughly in a similar position that we are here? I know there was Burke and Montgomery and a few other towns that are with on a similar path with us, and they've had to make some changes, I think, in both towns and reduce the original footprint of the system. But is anybody else like going online right now with us that we can learn from some of their experiences?
Londonderry's already picked a contractor, so they're a month or so ahead of us. Cindy probably has more intel on some of these than I do, but I think Montgomery is probably getting close to putting theirs out to bid. And then I happen to be involved on the edges of West Burke and was just up there, and they're a little ways out because they're dealing with some wetland permitting that had to wait for the growing season to start again. I don't think any of them have the same constraints in terms of the school. So I think most of them can kind of go along with a fall start and a potential winter shutdown and then finish next summer.
So we're all pretty similar, everyone you just mentioned. As
Pretty
far as,
similar.
like, when we're gonna be building, when the switches go on and next
Pretty
year.
similar, yeah. I think the end date will end up being the especially similar part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, well, that's good to get 3 built, or 4 counting us, I guess.
So I've got the
See, we're not
whole
there
list.
yet, but
I have the whole list if you want. I can tell you the status.
oh yeah, that'd be great.
Sure.
Grafton has decided not to proceed to construction. You just heard about Burke. Highgate, they're looking, they're further behind. And they look like they would be going out to bid this fall. Waitsfield.
I thought they already, me too.
Part of the town does.
Okay, so it's an expansion.
This is down the lower part of Waitsfield, between Waitsfield and Warren. That one, they're still trying to get their funding completed. Montgomery is the next one that's gonna go out to bid. South Harrow not moving to construction. Londonderry South opened bids last week. Londonderry North. They're still way back in land negotiations.
So Grafton and, what was the other town that you mentioned?
South Harrow,
That they've decided not to do.
right,
I had a bunch of towns, the reason I'm asking is like, I think last too, we had a bunch of towns reach out to us when we got that 3rd vote and we were gonna proceed, and
I think one was Grafton,
yeah.
and,
Fairleigh, Craftsbury reached out to me, Greensboro.
yeah, same as me, yeah,
So
Greensboro.
they're all watching, I guess.
Yeah.
I sent you the bylaws.
Oh,
I do think we should do it sooner than later. I mean,
form the commission, you mean? Or-
Yeah,
or
because
hire
this-
them.
form the commission. I think we should start looking now, because I think it's gonna take 3 or 4 months to get people. And then they have work to do
Right.
as a commission, even before they put out for someone to do all the testing.
Yeah.
They need to lay the groundwork.
Well, and also during construction is a good time to kind of educate them.
Yeah.
As the pieces of the puzzle go in, you can kind of meet with them and show them what's going on.
Maybe it feels like there's this big push now to close the bids, hire a contractor, negotiate the phasing and sequencing, and get the at least the fall part on their agenda, but maybe after that, because we're gonna do this public outreach push.
Yeah.
Later this spring, early summer, but maybe we'll do a second push in the summer when we're actually starting construction. And maybe to hire and recruit commission members and, be very educational, as you said, while the construction's going on.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think you guys could also be thinking about people that I mean, I'm sure it's the usual small crew of people, right?
Well, we need 2 select board members and 3 members, and I'd like to have users.
Yeah.
You need 2 super members.
That's what the bylaws say. I thought those guys down there at the house yoga
Oh, yeah,
might be,
friendly. Brad,
one of them applied for select board
you did?
position.
Well, I think it's, we're near the end of the meeting here, but probably should have done this at the beginning of the meeting, but I think it's always good to just pause and celebrate where we are. I mean, we've had some ups and downs, and even at this meeting today, we have some last minute changes and pivots and reschedules, but I think I'm very grateful that we're on track and overall, and appreciate everything that you're doing, Peter, and Stone, and Seth, and Tori. We couldn't have done it without you guys, and our friends at DEC, and the committee, who's been, is it 7 years? We've been meeting for 7 years, and thanks to all you guys.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for the team of folks that have pushed it this far. We've seen in other communities, if you don't have committee as engaged as you folks, and having LCPC on the team has been amazing, and DEC has been working incredibly hard to accommodate the schedules and push this along too. So it's been definitely a great team effort.
And just acknowledging, the select board support for this, because my good friend tried to have this effort in Westford, and he was the tip of the spear there, and got voted down by 30 some odd people, largely because it didn't have select board support and out front in this project. And, I think a lot of people were regretting that vote, but I think that's important. So Peter, just we have a next meeting scheduled for the 16th. Is that, should we keep that date, or?
Yeah, I think I'd keep that date.
If the bid is delayed, what should we do? I guess should we delay that meeting?
I guess, I don't know, let's just hold out a week or two and see where we land. If we need to, we could probably bump our meeting by a week and then maybe do a special meeting for the select board.
If it matters to anyone, I was looking through the records, and the first agenda for this committee was January 14, 2019. But I would also like to recognize that the town had an earlier study in 2005 that I believe some of you were part of then. So for those of you who were part of that earlier study, thank you for the many additional years on top of that of persistence on this.
For one thing, we're persistent. Resilient. The pandemic going in the middle of all of this too. But so Peter, I guess we'll look to you if we need to shift or change anything. If you could just update us, Peter, about the addendum and what that might include, just so we can update folks here. And what your thoughts are on that, and if we can keep the next meeting date or not.
Okay, that all sounds great.
And do we need it to be in contact at all between this meeting and the next meeting, other than what we just said?
I don't think we need to have anything formalized right now. We'll reach out if we think there's a scenario that we need some weigh in from the committee. And we can also just send out some emails to keep everyone in the loop.
Just one last question for Linda. Any updates on the finality of the bridge construction? Do we have an update from the contractor?
I don't talk to them, I don't know. I'm just letting them do their thing.
I know there was a
September 25.
incentive to finish early. I know you mentioned.
It would be nice though if we could get an email about if you decide to recommend somebody. Contractor.
For the Wait, sorry, for the construction?
Yeah.
Um,
I don't wanna wait till some meeting.
oh,
When you make a
yeah,
recommendation, it'd be fun to know. We'll be
yeah,
anxious
fair enough.
to
No,
wait.
that we were figuring that hopefully by the end of that week we would have results and have something that we feel comfortable sharing, and we'd actually potentially want to have some sort of a less
Alright.
less official discussion about whether or not we can give the contractor a kind of, hey, you're the likely
Yeah,
chosen contractor for this, just so they can start wrapping their head around what they have to do to schedule everything and start procuring all their orders.
And we need to have 2 bottles of champagne, one for when we hire the contractor and they start work, and one for Malta, and the switch gets flipped.
Once you have capacity, you can even have your own champagne making plant somewhere.
There you go. We should all acknowledge that Seth may not be with us for a little bit here.
yes.
Speaking of champagne,
I think I haven't that first, so what's going on?
so I will be going on parental leave, starting, well, the due date is the 21st of May, so we're on kind of, I've been told not to think of it as a public hearing notice, that it could happen before or after. So I
Pre-congratulations, Seth.
thank you.
Little girl.
I'll after all of this, you'll be probably doing the bid opening when I'm not sleeping. But I probably won't be there.
Well, feel free to text any hour, Seth, when you're thinking
Okay.
about it. Otherwise, we won't bother you.
I told a chair of a select board today not that I wouldn't be thinking of zoning and subdivision, and a permitting guy about the I rule that I wouldn't be thinking about soil or gravel pits, but I actually probably will be thinking at least a little bit about this on the bid opening day.
I bet you will.
Yes. Just a little bit, though.
Yeah, you'll be thinking about a lot of other things.
Yes. It's apropos to what I'll be doing. So,
Awesome.
yeah, thank you.
Any questions or comments from folks in Zoom land there? Well, thank you all for coming, and we are officially adjourned. Thank you for coming.
Sure.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye.